Hey, this is Curious, and I just had a very interesting conversation about a video, and I was thinking about it, and it's like, who doesn't want to succeed? Who in this life, except for a few self-destructive individuals, or someone who feels they have no recourse, doesn't want to make it in life? I can remember in high school when I wanted to be a master drafter, or an architectural drafter, and I wanted to do that by doing a wrestling scholarship. And that would have been my dream. My dream didn't happen. I'm not blaming anyone. I made wrong choices. I let myself make wrong decisions. And in a way, I don't quite feel I let myself. I didn't want to let myself. But more like I couldn't help myself. Even though I tried other things. I've tried everything, and while you can't excuse yourself for crashing your own ship up against the rocks, sometimes I think some people have better ships, you know? But I'm not blaming anybody, and I don't feel pity for anyone. Nor do I feel disregard. I simply accept that somebody somewhere will draw a shorter straw in life. There's just not enough to go around, and if everybody could produce as much as they possibly could in life, I don't think there would ever be enough to go around. I hate to be a fatalist like that, but I don't believe we can achieve a utopia when we live in a technological society and our existence is entropic in nature. In other words, you live, you grow, you decay, you decline more like in human society, in the main industrial human societies, and you pass on. Now, we want to make that arc as smooth and as easy as possible. And one way to do that is to have good health. I ran into somebody who said, well, okay, you made a lot of wrong choices in your life. Now, why should I support you? And I happen to agree with him. Why should he? Why should we have a redistribution of wealth? Well, I think even if I was rich and I had all the aces up my sleeve, one good reason was that whether you're 40 or you're 80, you all end up in decline. Sometimes you're just lucky enough to live a full life, perfectly healthy, happily in old age, and then you die in your sleep. But you know statistically that has to be the rare exception. And personally, I sometimes wonder if the guy didn't wake up for a minute going, huh? You know, what's the crueler fate? You know, well, I would say suffering through a disingenuous healthcare system that is struggling in a society that may be nearing collapse in a technological sense of the standard of living that we expect from a world of cheap energy from fossil fuels and other resources that may be coming into decline. You know? In Abraham Lincoln's time, or I should have said George Washington, sorry. Abraham Lincoln's a little later. Yeah, I did real good in school. You know, and I think that's part of it, is that you are given certain gifts. And those gifts you use to utilize in your society. So therefore, if you lived in Abraham Lincoln's time or George Washington's time, you lived primarily in an agricultural-based society, who had not had the industrialization to support a higher population through industry. Or maybe that got to the time of the Industrial Revolution. It was just beginning, the transition period. And let's be honest, the reason America thrived and the reason everybody said, "Go west, young man," was because there was a vast abundance of resources. And people that used those resources in a less technological sense, that got displaced because of it. I'm not going to cry for the Native American, but I don't, how can I say it? I don't feel sorry for him, but I don't discredit what happened either. I just view it in the sense that we didn't know. And now America kind of does know. And yet, in our society, things still happen. But in those times, indigenous population question aside for the moment, you went out, you worked the land. If the area where you was saturated with prospects, you went out and you sought the frontier for new resources. You could build a new life. Of course, that was a life that wasn't mandated with the needs and standards we have of healthcare. I mean, if they had the healthcare back then that we have now, wouldn't that change the dynamic of the idea of society? Just like modern weaponry changes the idea of a standing militia. We live in a society that has outproduced itself technologically. And I don't mind the higher standard of living. As a matter of fact, being a diabetic, I'm alive because of it. But yet, seeing my family, when I was born as a lonely child, into an extended family of older people. My parents were older, and my living grandmothers at the time were my extended family, and you could see how society evolved in the medical care industry and how their life progressed with the aid of that. What medical problems my mother had would have been much more easily remedied in my time. However, the decline of her job security might have meant she might not have gained those benefits. She had, my mother was a victim of cardiac arrest. She had a heart attack. She had a couple, matter of fact, and they told us at the time that she only had like 5 years to live. This was in the late 80s, before they had, where they could put the tube up the cardiac, up the artery, and clear valves, and all the other non-invasive procedures they have now. So you see, we're more advanced, but we're less capable. And as my family has passed away, and I'm starting to get the age where doctors are telling me, well, guess what? You better be careful because this count is high. And we can tell you right now that's going to lead to something. Well, both my grandmothers were diabetic. My parents weren't, and now I am. And I am struggling with my willpower to make my life extend as far as I can, and I don't want to do it off somebody else's dime or sweat equity. So for that person who said that, I don't blame you, because we're all trying to survive. But you know what, buddy? Me too. And I'm not sorry for it. So I guess you'll have to figure that out when it's your time or the time of your relatives to deal with it, okay? All right. Anyway, on other fronts, I'm not sorry. I'm not pitiful. But I am hopeful that something will happen for me. And that, more importantly, I can make it happen for myself. So this is Kiris.